Okay, boxing fans, the next edition of Casual's Cunty comments, and this one is the best one. This is submitted by DJ Cy Thompson, and on this one, this guy, UK Boxing Blogger News, you can find him on Twitter and on YouTube actually, says Anthony Joshua would kill Jack Dempsey. I know what you're thinking, but there's more to the conversation. I'm just going to run through it quickly. The reason, once I paraphrase running through this whole conversation, is that he says all fighters from the 1920s are not as advanced as the guys of today. Like Joshua, he's too advanced for the guys of the 20s. Too advanced. I will bring up a few, examples later on of where that's just total hogwash. But I'll just bring in the rest of the guys in a second. But I just want to quickly give out a quick smack bottom to UK Boxing Blogger News. So I'm here with Asif, I'm here with Rory, Paul, and Ryan. So, Rory, first of all, what do you reckon of that one? That's very good.
Sorry about that, man. Yeah, just fucking ridiculous. A guy, to kind of elaborate on the whole conversation, he goes on and he said, the athleticism of fighters nowadays is much better than the 1920s, but it's been 80 years and you're expected to think that man has somehow changed its ability and its structure and conditioning in 80 years. Forget it. It's just, even if Joshua went on to be a great fighter, and fingers crossed he does, he's still not going to be anywhere near Jack Dempsey. There's no calibre of fighters that were there at that time. There's no, the guys who were fighting in the 20s fought 2, 3, 4 times a month kind of thing, Joshua was, alright, he's doing that now to an extent, more so than the average fighter, but he's not going to even touch the guy's boots. It's just a ridiculous throwaway comment. But
this is the point of the whole Casual's Cunty comments saga. It's because it just shows how casual thinking people can be. This guy's a casual boxing fan. Obviously, he's just, it's one of those opinions that you say it and you just think, well, why the fuck did I say that? But he's not got the stones to say, yeah, probably not. Probably shouldn't have said that. Or if he believes it, that's even worse. What do you reckon, as if that's just a terrible comment, is it not?
Yeah, I think it's a very terrible comment, and me, I'm a big heavyweight fan, and I think it's disrespecting Jack Dempsey, and Anthony Joshua, I hope, because I'm actually a big fan of Anthony Joshua, I hope he goes on to do big things. He's definitely got the style, he's got the pedigree, he's got the right, and he has got potential to be a world champion. But as you mentioned quite there, back in those days, he fight 4 times a week. So that he fight 4 times a week, and the number of fights that he used to have. I know that chap talked about conditioning, but Anthony Joshua's not got the conditioning to fight 4 times a month or week even.
No,
and
no, of course not.
So I think that some modern day fighters aren't given that much respect that they probably deserve, like Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson. I think they would be able to compete, and I use the word compete, in the old era. I'm not going to say they would have dominated it like they did in this era, but I would say yes, there are certain fighters that could compete in the old era. However, specifically going back to that comment that Anthony Joshua beat Jack Dempsey is utter cabbage. That's all I can say, really.
Yeah, that's right. Paul, what do you reckon about this? This is just a casual comment, isn't
it? These type of people that make these comments are the type of people who think if boxing hasn't happened on coloured telly, then it's not important. It's not worth anything. You fight in the 1930s, 40s, or 50s. Who cares? It was before boxing was important. The same people who think Sky are, the inventors of boxing. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Just a few things, just for people to know about, Jack Dempsey. This guy was a savage in the ring. He bobbed and weaved. He used two-fisted attacks. That was like the norm in the 20s. Two-fisted attacks. You don't see that nowadays. Joshua would not know how to cope with that kind of style today because he had 25 first-round knockouts. So he's clearly a savage puncher. This guy, right, is one of the best heavyweights from the golden era of the boxing ring. This guy fought and beat, right? Let's just say beat. He beat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Hall of Famers. Billy Minsk, Battling Levinsky, Jess Willard, Tommy Gibbons, Georges Comportier, French guy, can't pronounce his name properly, and Jack Sharkey. All of those guys, Hall of Famers. Ryan, what do you reckon about that comment?
Yeah, I don't agree with it either, like you guys. It was a casual comment. It also, it's a sort of historical fallacy because a lot of people say things like that. They'll say, the guys today are more advanced or more, what's the word? Or healthier nowadays and all of this. They say the same with any sport. They say the same with football as well. They say that, players nowadays are fitter than they were back in the day. But if that was the case, then why did players play just as many games back in the day? If you remember, the Premiership used to be like 6 games longer at one point. Why is it that players back in the day used to play the full 90 minutes before substitutions were allowed, like at the World Cup? Why is it that they didn't seem to get as injured as they do nowadays? Nowadays, in, say, boxing, you could pull out of a fight at, a day's notice or whatever with a bad back. It's all the rage nowadays to say, I've got a bad back. And nobody even questions it because it's difficult to prove that you've got a bad back or not. But back in the day, before the 70s and all that, which also, tied along with, the lack of human rights because people didn't have as many working rights back then, they would just be expected to fight with a broken toe or a broken thumb or probably, a bit of a damaged neck or whatever. They would just fight nonetheless, which is why they used to fight, twice a week sometimes. I'm pretty sure that, it's a bit of a historical fallacy to say, guys are fitter nowadays. I would question that because I'd like to know how I'm not sure if they're necessarily fitter. I think that's a debatable point, but I think it's got more to do with the fact that they've got more workers' rights, so they're allowed to pull out at a shorter notice than they were back in the day. I can imagine a trainer back in Jack Dempsey's days saying, stop being a sissy and just get in the ring with you.
So, it's just another thing as well. We'll go away from Dempsey for a second. I mean, he basically said all fighters from the 20s are not as good as the guys now. Well, I'm just going to name you a few guys who, broke history. Tiger Flowers, the very first African-American middleweight champion of the world. Do you think he would lose to Sam Solomon? Do you think that fight would be even competitive? I don't. I think Tiger Flowers would batter him. Gene Tunney versus Jürgen Bremer. Do you think Jürgen Bremer is better than Gene Tunney? I don't. Yeah, I've got another one. This one's a funny one. Harry Greb, okay, versus Eamon O'Kane. By his argument, Eamon O'Kane should batter Harry Greb.
Does Peter Quillen knock out Jake LaMotta?
Yeah. See, it's pointless to even consider that as an argument. It's just so pointless. And also, what's the cut-off point for too advanced? At what point does the advancement stop? If AJ is too advanced for Dempsey, he must be too advanced for Joe Louis and Rocky Marciano, like Ryan said. Do you think AJ today would beat Dempsey, Louis, and Rocky Marciano? Even if let's just say we threw in those guys, and they would all be cruiserweights, maybe except Joe Louis, right? We just threw him in the ring with them. Those guys in today's boxing. That would definitely be competitive fights. I'll probably pick Dempsey, Lewis, and Marciano to win them all. I'll give you let's move a bit further forward then. What about Sonny Liston? Because he was a small guy, basic caveman, compared to Anthony Joshua. And I'm saying that in terms of Anthony Joshua being too advanced. Do you think Liston would struggle with Anthony Joshua?
No.
My language, mate, but Sonny Liston would absolutely rape Anthony Joshua.
Well,
you know what? You don't have to go that long. My honest opinion, does Anthony Joshua even be Alexander Povetkin? You know, he'll struggle. Povetkin's a good fighter. So, never mind Jack Dempsey. With Anthony Joshua, you know, how well will he do against today's heavyweights?
I don't know, that's the point. We don't even know what he's like in today's heavyweight standard, so...
Is that like you said about Jürgen Bremer and Solomon? At least they, alright. The guys you'd put them up against did, you know, get absolutely battered. I'm with you on that. But they've both won world titles. What the fuck's Joshua done? Do you know what I mean? At least you give Bremer and Solomon a little bit of credit because, well, they've gone and won a world title, for fuck's sake, you know? It's just...
talk about it.
I don't think we should, you know, it's not Anthony Joshua's fault. It's an Eddie Earn's fault. Yeah.
I feel sorry for the lad, to be honest. I mean, the amount of hype he's getting, brilliant. Like they said, publicity, fantastic. But if he makes a slip up, imagine if he was to lose, like we've all said, if he was to lose in, say, 2 or 3 fights. I mean, Amir Khan lost to Bearded Prescott, you know. Imagine if that happened. Fuck me, he'd be absolutely caned. It'd be the biggest fall from grace ever in British boxing. He's been hyped up that much that you've got people believing this hype and coming out with nonsense like that. You know, let the guy just fight, let him progress, let him do what he needs to do, you know, just leave the guy alone a bit, for God's sake, you know.
Exactly. If you compare him to Sergey Kovalev, nobody hyped him up. He just fought, kept his head down, and he got just rewards. You know, people were talking about him when he was actually doing something, whereas people are talking about Anthony Joshua when he's not really done anything. Done exactly the same what David Price did at this stage.
Yeah, exactly.
They're both very similar paths. They're both beating people who they were expected to beat.
I know the Harrison, he was the next big thing, and you know, I mean, to be honest, you can't really judge much from a fighter in say 9 fights anyway, because you know they're all fighting novices and tomato cans. It's only when they have a decent test, say double-figured fights, that you start really knowing anything. Obviously, with the exception of the likes of Lomachenko and stuff like that, but
yeah,
you know, it's crazy. It's just crazy.
Yeah, we'll leave it there. Smack bottom for UK boxing blogger news.